Thank you for listening to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. This is Real Sports Talk for the Real Sports Fan, and I definitely appreciate you real sports fans who are listening right now. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you. And go ahead, please give us that 5-star rating, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. That 5-star rating will definitely be appreciated. If you're listening on a 3-point conversion station where fans' opinions matter, please let us know what you think of the show. If you think it's good, let everybody know that you think it's good and share the show. If you think it can improve, let me know how I can improve. I can't improve without your opinions. Just be constructive because I am a gentle soul. Alright, today is a special bonus edition. You might wonder, why is Damian talking so smooth right now? It's because this is the love edition of The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Alright, and who's better to have on a love edition than two people who bring the sexy back to sports each and every week? So if you guys have listened to the last 2 bonus episodes, you've heard the voices of Kellie and Rashan from the Red Zone Live, and I brought them back today. How you doing today, Rashan?
Damian, I'm doing good, brother. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. I'm in a good mood. You know, I got the smooth voice. Had the smooth voice going at the beginning. You know how to get my belly.
Hey, man. You sound like Billy Ocean.
You know, had to start it smooth. You know, had to flip the switch on them real quick. You know, I don't know if they know about I used to be a host of a midnight show. You know, in my dreams. You know, and I would like, here comes the next smooth song. And be like, Keith Sweat or something coming on.
I feel you, dog.
How you doing today, Kellie?
I am doing fantastic. And you know what? If you keep talking with that smooth voice, we're going to have to get you for copyright infringement because we're the ones that are supposed to be bringing sexy back.
No, I definitely can't bring it back like you guys do. You know, you guys bring sexy back better than Justin Timberlake. So, you know, I definitely can't step in that lane with you guys. So, talking about bringing the sexy back to sports, Kellie, can you please let the people know where and when they can listen to the Red Zone Live, where sexy is brought back to sports?
Absolutely. Rashan and I bring sexy back every Friday night, live, uncensored, and unscripted from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern on blogtalkradio.com/momentum shift. And if that's not enough for you, you can catch us on demand anytime at our sponsor website, goingfor2.com. That's going, FOR, the number 2.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media at the Red Zone Live. And you can follow me. I'll spell my name because it's weird. KELLIERUTTAR.
Yes, thank you. And Rashan, where can people find you on social media?
Oh, man, they can find me at BabyBlack1977 on Twitter. That's basically the only place they can follow me. I don't really do the Snapchat thing or I barely post on Facebook unless we have a show. So I'm entertaining as hell on Twitter. So you can follow me at BabyBlack1977.
Yes, sir. Now, today's episode is another bonus episode. Now, this one isn't a competition. The last 2 bonus episodes have been competitions where we were doing drafts and seeing who would get the most votes. Like the first one we did with... Hold on 1 second. Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. So we had a little technical difficulty, so we're going to do our first commercial break really quick here. And today's episode is brought to you by Quip. Quip is a company that is all about taking care of your mouth. It's for oral needs. So if you need to get your oral needs taken care of on a monthly basis with electric toothbrushes, go to tryquip.com/therealdeal. Again, that's tryquip.com/therealdeal. And you get $5 off of each of your refills. So again, that's tryquip.com/therealdeal. All right. So before the commercial break, I was talking about the bonus episodes we had, where we had little competitions, little drafts, where we did one. The last one we did was a birthday party draft. And people must want to get lit. They must want to have fun and just have crazy times with people and might go to jail. They don't care about it, I guess, because Kellie won the last one and she had all these crazy people at her party. So people must just want to get lit and go to Kellie's party. Rashan won the first one. We had a sports movie draft. But this one isn't a competition. So next time we have them on, we'll have a competition, because I got to give me one victory on my own show at least. but That's why I got them on, because they always bring it. Now, in this episode, of course, is the day after Valentine's Day. So, of course, we got to talk about the love. We're going to discuss, our favorite sports and why we fell in love with those sports and why we love our favorite teams. We're also going to count down, not really count down, but we're going to pick 3 each of our favorite relationships in sports. It could be between 2 players. It could be a player and a coach. It could be a team and a fan base, or any other relationship you could think of in sports. So I'm looking forward to this episode. I think the stories will be great about why I fell in love with sports, and just have good vibes in this episode because it's all about the love. So I'm going to start with Kellie. What are your favorite sports, Kellie?
Well, my absolute favorite sports are football, first and foremost, but then I also love basketball, and I love me some baseball playoffs when my team is in there, and then, of course, I also love March Madness.
Okay, so let's start with football. What is it, or was there a moment, or maybe a time period where you remember falling in love with football?
It started for me, and I feel like I told this story on another show at one point, but I'm going to tell it again. But when I was a kid, my mom was a cheerleading coach, and I was too young to be on the cheerleading squad, so she had me as kind of the mascot. I had, my little cheerleading outfit. I was maybe in first, second grade at the time. And I thought everybody in those stands was there to watch the cheerleaders. I had no idea that anybody even cared what was going on with those boys behind us. I thought they just wanted to watch us. So one game, my mom says to me, Kellie, what cheer do you want to do next? And I say, I want to do push 'em back. It was this cheer. It's called push 'em back, way back. And it was my favorite cheer for some reason. I don't know. I was a kid. And my mom says, we can't do that cheer. That's a defense cheer. You can't do that. We're on offense right now. And I'm looking at her like, what in the world is she talking about? I had no idea. And then I had this need to understand, because that's just my basic personality. I need to understand things that I don't know about. So that's when I started trying to figure out the rules to football. And I just fell in love with the brilliance of the sport. The fact that it seems so violent, guys out there on the field knocking into each other, hitting each other, that sort of thing. But when you look at it, it's really an elegant sport. It's a battle of will. You need to outsmart your opponent. And I consider football almost like chess between the coaching staff, and they have living chess pieces. So I fell in love with it right then and there. And then the more I got to learn about it, the more I got to watch, professional teams play, the more I just loved the game of football. And that's why it's always going to be my first sports love.
Yeah, that's a great story, and you have told that on this show before. Yeah, your first time on this show. I remember asking you about that, and that story just brings together how it could be something so small that strikes a big passion, right? You just cheerleading, not even worrying about what's going on the field, and then it was just that little thing of not being able to do this one cheer that sparked this whole love affair you have with football. So that's a great story. So Rashan, what are your favorite sports?
My favorite sport growing up was basketball.
Okay, and so with basketball, what was it that made you fall in love with basketball?
Well, growing up in a predominantly black neighborhood, we didn't have too many baseball fields. We didn't have too many football fields. There was a lot of basketball. And just the competition of it, I'm a very competitive person, and just to see, guys playing defense on another person. One player can literally change the outcome of a game, and one player can literally become the GOAT, of a game, based on, their defense or their offense. It looked like everybody, was having fun when they played basketball. All the girls like basketball players. You know what I mean? And another thing, that I realized at a very young age is that basketball players didn't wear, helmets. You see what I'm saying? They didn't wear hats.
Yeah.
What you saw was what you got. You know what I mean? So as you grow up, you realize that's why they're more marketable than anybody, because people know who they are. You know what I mean? So that's why I fell in love with basketball.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that story, as basketball being my favorite sport. It's kind of a tie for me between basketball and boxing. as my favorite sports.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to distinguish between the two. For basketball, my mom tells the story of me at 9 months old. So can't talk yet, but I was a quick learner when it came to walking, right? So at 9 months old, I was able to walk. And my mom tells the story of waking up, and she's scared to death because she goes to my crib, and I'm not there. So somehow I flipped out the crib, and she said that they had a video, a video of it, of me flipping out the crib, because I guess they had a recorder on the monitor. And I flip out the crib, and somehow I didn't break any bones or land crazy to where I started crying. Flip out the crib, and there was the Michael Jordan tape in the VCR. And I flip out the crib. She goes to the living room and sees me sitting in front of the TV watching the Michael Jordan video. So I guess I learned how to press play. And so I guess for basketball, it really was just born in me to love basketball. I played basketball growing up. It's something about just, you talk about somebody shutting down. Defense is an underrated part of basketball, where if you shut down somebody, how much trash you could talk to somebody for shutting them down a whole game. And it's a lot of things, like you said, you mentioned not wearing a helmet. So when somebody gets dunked on, everybody sees it. You cross somebody up, everybody knows it's you that crossed them up or it's you that got crossed. And there's something about that transparency that made me fall in love with basketball, especially as I was actually pretty decent at it too. So it's something that I played all the time. I still play till this day. And when I go out there and I get a little crossover or I hit a shot in somebody's face, it's just such a feeling of joy that comes over me for playing basketball, man. That's why I love basketball. And for boxing, so my dad is a big, huge boxing fan. And I remember when I was younger, he would always have Roy Jones fights on. And there was one fight I remember watching Roy where I might have been maybe 8, 9 years old. And Roy did this move where he kind of looked at the crowd, backed up, and then punched the dude at the same time. And that moment, I was like, okay, this is awesome. I don't know how he did it, the technique, or anything at this point, but I'm like, I'm going to learn about this sport. It's awesome. And I've been in love with boxing ever since. So for basketball and boxing are my favorites. Football is right there, of course, for me as well, like right underneath those two. And tennis, sneakily, like if a tennis match is on, I'll just stop and watch it because I just love the technique of tennis. But those three sports are definitely a top for me. Like I said, tennis right there. And if, like, you're just throwing in like a weird sport, ping pong, like if I see a ping pong match on, like I will stop. I will stop and watch ping pong because they be going hard. Like they be going hard on the ping pong. We had ping pong when I was in 8th grade. We had a ping pong championship, and I remember I won. And I thought I was good until I actually watched professional ping pong players, and I was like, "Whoa, there's no way I'm messing with these dudes. They over here hitting. They like 5 feet away from the table, hitting it back and forth. Crazy." But yeah, I definitely love the stories of why we fell in love with sports. Now, you guys are both fans of the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. So I definitely got to hear the stories of why you love that team. Let's start with Rashan. Why do you love the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, this current group is like we watched them all grow up together. You know, literally before our eyes, within a year. You know, nobody expected, well, let me say nobody but my lovely co-host who predicted that the Eagles would go to the Super Bowl, and I thought she was out of her mind. I'm not going to lie, I thought she was out of her mind. You know what I mean? And, you know, lo and behold, we end up in the Super Bowl and we win it. You know, but I think the difference with this team and the only other team I can compare them to is the 2004 team. And the reason I love this team is because it's a brotherhood on this team. You know, it was never any arguments amongst the receivers. Alshon Jeffrey is here on a 1-year contract. Well, at the time, he was here on a 1.
I think we lost him right there, so we're gonna take a quick break and be right back as I get him back on the line. All right, we had a little technical difficulty there. I'm in a new studio, aka apartment, and I gotta learn the dead zones here, so I might be sitting in one. But we're gonna go back to Rashan telling us why he loves this current group of Eagles and why he loves the Eagles, period. So go ahead, Rashan, tell us why you love this group of Eagles so much.
Well, like I was saying, I think it's a brotherhood amongst these guys. These guys, they played for each other. There wasn't no egos involved. Like I was saying before, Alshon Jeffrey, he signed here, 1 year just to prove himself so he can get, extended or get a bigger contract. And, I'm sure it was incentives involved in his contract. Early in the year, he wasn't getting the ball as much. The ball was going to Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz, but it wasn't no complaint, and we were winning. Then once Wentz learned him, he learned Wentz. They built a rapport, and they everything was smooth. You know what I mean? The Eagles been solid from day one. You know what I mean? We just refused to see it. There's a special group of guys who love each other, who love the city. They took that underdog role and ran with it. They breathe like us. That's the only way I can describe it. They breathe like us. There's a sense in the air of Philadelphia is that we're the little brother to New York. We're never quite good enough. That's why we got that in us that we need to fight all the time to prove ourselves. That's why you may hear an aggressive tone out of me because that's how I was raised. That's how it is growing up in Philadelphia. You have to be aggressive. And I think this team is a prime example or a great representation of what the Philadelphians are. They fight, they don't care, and they put everything on the line. Win, lose, or draw. It's all heart. And that's the one thing that connects me to this team more so than it did in 2004 with Donovan McNabb and T.O. That was a great team, but they were separated. You had T.O.'s group, you had McNabb group. And from what we later heard is that it didn't just happen in year 2 under T.O. and McNabb. It was year 1. They stopped speaking in the middle of the year because McNabb allegedly, yelled at T.O. in a huddle and called him a profane word. So those guys wasn't together. It was all about business for them. And if they would have won, it was sort of like expected, you know what I mean? Because they were the best team in the NFC for the last 3-4 years before that Super Bowl run. This team, it was totally unexpected for me. Not for my co-host Kels, who predicted they would go. You know what I mean? But for me and 99.9% of the fans here in Philadelphia, we did not expect this. We would have been happy with a playoff berth, lost in the first round, long as it was progression. Well, they progressed like hell, and it brought us a Super Bowl championship. And like every Philadelphian and every Philadelphia Eagle fan, this one is special, and nothing this team or any team that represent the Eagles can do in the future will ever take away from this moment.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like I said in previous episodes, I'm a Saints fan, but I was definitely happy for you guys. If it wasn't the Saints, there's no other team I would rather it be than the Eagles because of that passion that you brought just now. And let's go back to your childhood. Why did you fall in love with the Eagles in the first place?
Well, I fell in love with the Eagles doing a weird thing. You know what I mean? It was a weird game. It was the Fog Bowl. Their playoff, it was their playoff game against Chicago, in which, I was I was a big basketball fan. My very first game I went to in the basketball, very first NBA game I went to was the Dr. J Rock the Baby over Michael Cooper.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like it. I didn't know what I was looking at. I know I just seen 20,000 people go crazy. Off of this guy just making this shot. So I was really a basketball fan. So I caught on to the Eagles later on. That's when they were in the midst of possibly winning the Super Bowl. They had a great defense, and they had Randall Cunningham, who was almost the league MVP at the time, I believe. I think he won it that year. And it was a weird game. They went to Chicago, and then all of a sudden, God was just like, okay, let's just throw some clouds down on the field. And next thing you know, you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see anything. The Eagles end up losing. It was almost like the Bears was used to playing in it because they played like, like what they play better than us. And I remember, my uncle, who was a huge Eagles fan, the hurt, he had, because a lot of, like a lot of Eagle fans who's gone now, never thought that they would see a championship and never did get to see the championship, and they thought that was their year that they could see it. And I sort of hurt on it, like, in his face, Then, my teachers and everybody just around the city, it was just a lot of hurt, so that's when I started watching football. And then I fell in love with it, and then I fell in love with the passion, and I saw how, I understood what everybody else was feeling when the Eagles lost, but it was that particular game that made me fall in love with football.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. As a Saints fan, I definitely can relate to having those heartbreaking losses. And it's crazy, around that same time, the Saints had that same type of team, that great defense with the Dome Patrol, and not a good offense. And we couldn't really get past the wild card round at the time. We didn't end up winning our first playoff game until 2000, which, if people forget about pre-Drew Brees Saints, how bad the history was. Now let's go to you, Kelly. Why do you love the Eagles so much?
Well, as you know, I grew up in Connecticut, so it might seem kind of weird that a girl from Connecticut would fall in love with the Philadelphia Eagles. But both of my parents are from the Philadelphia area. My father, born and raised on the streets in the actual city of Philadelphia. My mother from one of the suburbs right near the city of Philadelphia. So, I was raised with that kind of Philly passion, and I was fortunate enough growing up. We had a summer house in South Jersey, and everybody in South Jersey is Eagles fans. And it was kind of like, although I grew up in Connecticut and I had kind of that Connecticut attitude, my favorite place on earth and where I was always the happiest was during the summer when I was on the beach in South Jersey. And that was all Eagles, Philadelphia people through and through down there. So it was, I never felt that the Patriots were my identity, even though Connecticut is part of New England. So I claimed the Eagles. But growing up in Connecticut, and this was before the ages of DirecTV, and of course I wasn't old enough for sports bars, that kind of thing, I didn't really get to watch them too much on television. It was kind of rare that I would be able to see a game. So it was once I became old enough to drink, and once I became old enough to go out to sports bars, once Sunday Ticket was invented, I started actually being able to watch Philadelphia Eagles games, and that was around the time that we got Donovan McNabb. And of course, that was one of the most explosive Eagles teams that we've seen in the early years of McNabb, and especially after Terrell Owens came on board. And it was probably the year before we got T.O. was when I really fell in love with the team all over again. They were always my team, but then it just all of a sudden became so much fun to watch them. And then, of course, you stick through your team through the good times and through the bad times. Stuck through it with Chip Kellie. When the NFL became, the no fun league for a while, when they got rid of celebration, it was kind of a drag, but I still loved my team and I watched them every single week through and through. And now this year, for me, the Eagles are entwined with my own personal love story because, of course, the draft was held in Philadelphia. And it was on my trip to Philly to watch the draft where I met the love of my life, Ryan. And that was our first weekend that we spent together at the draft. And then months after that, we moved in together. I moved to Pennsylvania, about an hour away from Philly now. And I got to share this season with this team, with the love of my life, the sports love of my life with the Philadelphia Eagles, with the man of my life in Ryan. And being able to share every moment of this particular team, especially the first year that they bring back celebration, and shout out to the Eagles for winning celebration of the year with the electric slide. We were actually at that game live, so that was exciting there that we actually saw that winning celebration, live at the link. And then the fact that we brought it all home this year, it was like I remembered why I love Philadelphia, why I love Philadelphia fans, why I fell in love with the Philadelphia fan. And it's just been an amazing roller coaster ride to be an Eagles fan. Going back from childhood where I didn't get to watch much, and then when I did get to start watching, where we had, the up years with Donovan McNabb, T.O. Then we had the down years towards the decline of Andy Reid, when we saw Brian Dawkins retire, when we saw Chip Kelly come in and gut the team, and then Doug Peterson comes in, and I knew there was something special about Doug Peterson. Everyone had everything stacked against him, but I knew that there was something about him that these players loved and respected. And although everyone criticized his play calling from his first year, I knew in my heart of hearts that he had to be learning from every mistake. You could see it in his attitude, the fact that he is a humble guy, and he listens to everyone, and he absolutely proved me right. He learned from his mistakes, found himself a run game, and brought it home. So it's like my love affair with the Eagles has come full circle this year. So, I mean, it's a great time to be a Philadelphia fan. They've always been my team, and I could never imagine loving another football team.
Oh, tears. Tears coming down, man. This is
right? I know this one thing. Kellie and Ryan better not never live apart again, damn it.
Man, I just felt the speech so much, man. But now it's definitely great how it all came full circle for you, and seems like the perfect year for your team and you personally. So I'm definitely glad to hear that. Mm-hmm. Now, for the Saints, the reason that I fell in love with the Saints, it's funny that you brought up kind of heartbreak, Rashan. Like, it was heartbreak for us too. Like, when I realized how big a Saints fan I was. Never forget the 1998 draft, 97 or 98. The Saints are about to they had one of the higher picks in the draft, but Mike Ditka was in love with Ricky Williams, and the talk all during the week was the Saints are going to try to find a way to get Ricky Williams. And the Washington Redskins, I believe, had the second pick in the draft that year. My dad, he's a big draft guy. He gets his whole weekend around it. This is back when the draft was on Saturday and Sunday. And my dad would have his whole weekend ready. He would tell me about the college players coming out, and this is how we would kind of bond. Even though I was too young to really understand everything at that point, he was teaching me through the draft about different players and different positions. And I remember they made the announcement that the Saints had traded they traded their whole draft. Not 2 picks, not 3, not 4, all 7. All the picks. Gave them to the Washington Redskins so we can get Ricky Williams. And I never seen my dad so conflicted. There's a part of him that was excited because Ricky Williams in college was the man at Texas. This guy looked like he's going to be the next big thing in the NFL. And he had a few years where he lived up to his expectations, especially in Miami. But like I said, in Miami, he never lived up to his expectations in New Orleans. So that's what makes the trade, one of the worst in history, is that we trade our whole draft for a guy who lived up to his potential in a different place. And I remember my dad being like, all right, so I guess we ain't got to watch the draft no more. And him just seeing how conflicted he was about it and how he didn't know how to react. You could tell that's how you feel about something you love. You only get that conflicted about something that you really care about. And that's when I started to really pay attention and really fall in love with it. And I really love this year's team because this year's team, really reflected New Orleans. They had fun. The New Orleans is known as the Big Easy, a party town. And this team was constantly having fun. You had the young players really invigorating the team. So you think about Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore both winning Rookie of the Year on respective sides of the ball, and how they had fun. Like Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram really just brought an energy to that team that made it just fun. And I wanted us to succeed so bad because of that. And that's why the Minneapolis Miracle hurt so much. Because it was like, we made this great comeback against this team that had this daunted defense. And we're like, and we to lose like that. And my girlfriend makes fun of me because she thinks I went to the bathroom to cry after the game. And tears almost came down. I'm not going to lie. I had to hold them back a little bit because to lose that way. But it just shows how much you care for your team. And when the Saints won the Super Bowl, that's when I really realized how much I cared about the team. So I was in the Navy at the time, and I was in Meridian, Mississippi, so not too far from New Orleans. And we're watching the game, and when Tracy Porter picks off Peyton Manning, and we pretty much seal the game, tears started coming down my face. And I'm like, why am I crying over a football game? It's because I love the team so much. And a lot of things lead to that love, especially after Hurricane Katrina, where we almost lost the team. I believe that made the bond between the team and the city that much stronger. And there's not a lot of towns that have connections like Philly and New Orleans do to their football teams. And that's why I think we talk so passionately about our teams and love them so much. But yeah, definitely love the reasons that you guys love your teams. And now let's get into our favorite relationships in sports. So let's start with Kelly. We're all going to pick 3 each of our favorite relationships in sports and tell why we love those relationships. So let's start with your first one, Kelly. Who was your first relationship and why do you love that relationship so much?
Well, my first relationship, it is an ongoing love story between 2 players. And it started, and excuse me, my dog is barking like crazy. Let me get away from her. Okay. It started when, there was this young ingenue rising star who I actually got to see play in high school because I had just moved to Cleveland at the time. And he had all the talent and potential in the world. He was a hometown boy. He was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was the future and brightness of the city. But he couldn't get it done. And then there was this older gentleman who kind of fell in love with the young ingenue. And he said, "Kid, come with me. I'm going to take you places. I'm going to teach you how to be a champion." Of course, that was Dwayne Wade. So LeBron left the land of his home, the land of his birth, the land that brought him into the sport of basketball to go to Miami for this wild love affair with Dwayne Wade. And together they won championships. And then LeBron said, "You know what? Look, D-Wade, I got to bring it home to Cleveland. I promised these guys that I would do it. I need to prove that I can do it on my own without your help." And so LeBron came home, and he brought the city of Cleveland their first championship, and I was lucky enough to be living there at that time next to the Super Bowl. My second best sports memory was winning that Cleveland Cavaliers championship that year. And then, you know what? Dwayne Wade came back. And it was just never the same. So their love has died. But I don't think it's over between these guys. I think we're going to see a LeBron and Dwayne Wade comeback before it's over. So that's why that's one of my favorite relationships, because it almost reads like a Lifetime movie story if you look at it, the way that they were apart and then they found each other and then they were apart again and then they came back. Now they broke up. Now, we're waiting for part 3 of the saga of LeBron and Dwayne Wade. So I'm excited to see what happens next for those 2.
Yes, I definitely love that story. The way you described it sounds like it should be a movie. How these 2 guys have both, made it to the NBA and became best friends and won championships together. And you mentioned how they tried to make it work again in Cleveland and it didn't. And now Dwayne Wade had to go back to his original love, the Miami Heat. And LeBron had to stay in Cleveland where just the chemistry is better. So I definitely like that pick right there. So Rashan, who is your first pick in relationship that you love?
Well, my first pick is Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. I think that their relationship was so unique in the sense that they were brought together, by things out of their control. You see what I'm saying? You got a brash, outspoken, black kid coming out of, Michigan State, flashy, 6'9", can dribble, can rebound, can do things that a lot of guys at 6'9" couldn't do. Then you got this humble, quiet, white guy coming out of Indiana. They met in the national championship. Magic won. They get to the NBA, and they got pressure put on them from the moment they put on their first NBA jersey, stepped on the court for the first time. They basically had to save the NBA. Of course, the NBA had stars like, Dr. J, Moses Malone at the time, George Gervin, but, the ratings were slipping. And the NBA picked up on the story between Magic and Bird, and basically made them rivals. And we can know that internally they felt the way, the media and everybody else made them out to be. They were actually rivals. They were looking at each other's games, to see who scored more that night. fight, who did more, which team won more, and it just this bond created between these two. Magic eventually won 5 championships. Bird won 3. They met in the finals 3 times. Magic, outdoing Bird 2-1. But they both played 13 seasons in the league. You know what I mean? Both of them played 13 seasons. I just want to throw out some comparisons between these two. They both played 13 seasons in the league. Both played in the playoffs. Well, Magic played in the playoffs 13 times. Bird played in the playoffs 12. Both each had 12 All-Star appearances. Both each had 3 MVPs. Magic had 3 MVPs in the finals. Bird had 2. Both 9-time All-NBA first team. All-NBA teams 10 both. So the comparisons between them two, it was just so crazy. And then, of course, when Magic, got diagnosed with HIV, their bond became, a little bit tighter. Larry Bird called him, wished him, well. At the time when Magic, was getting shunned by a lot of so-called friends. You know what I mean? People who were scared to talk to him, people who didn't understand the disease. Larry Bird reached out to him, told him he'll be there for him. That friendship just, grew from there. And of course, when Magic went into the Hall of Fame, he had Larry Bird there. And Larry Bird presented Bird into the Hall of Fame as well. And you can't mention one without mentioning the other. So I think their relationship, even though they were rivals, was basically a love story because it saved the NBA. And I think friendships like that Magic had may have saved his life as well.
Yes, that's a great pick. I love how you brought all the comparisons out of how parallel their careers were. So I definitely love that pick right there. Now for my pick, I'm going to take a page from Kellie's book. I'm going to go a little dark. All right, this relationship did not have a fairy tale ending, but sometimes these are the stories that you need for other relationships to thrive. I'm talking about Shaq and Kobe. All right. When you have Shaq and Kobe gets drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, but then gets traded to the Lakers. And that same offseason, Shaq gets picked up. And it takes a few years for Kobe to become the Kobe Bryant that we knew. But Shaq was already a dominant guy. And through that process, they went through getting swept in the finals by the Utah Jazz and getting eliminated earlier than expected. And then they finally turned that corner and started winning championships. But when they started winning championships, Kobe was coming into his own. And next thing you know, they're not really getting along. Then he had that team with Karl Malone and Gary Payton where you could see that the chemistry just wasn't there. And why wasn't it there? Because you had Kobe who was, ultimate alpha type of guy. You can't be that with Shaq in his prime. You just can't do that. And then you had the whole thing where Kobe got caught up in the whole Colorado scandal and ratted on Shaq. I still don't forgive Kobe for that. You can't be out here ratting on people. That's man code 101. Keep Shaq stuff out of this. No reason for Shaq's, infidelities to come up in this investigation of your mess ups. And you're always going to wonder how many championships they could have won if they stayed together. Because Kobe goes on to win 2 more a few years later. Shaq won 1 more with Dwayne Wade. And you wonder, could they have won 2 more, 3 more championships together and put together maybe a Chicago Bulls type run if they stayed together? But I think the if factor is what makes that relationship one of the best. And now that they're both out of the league, they seem to have, mended the relationship and be at least cordial with each other. So that's my number 1 pick because we saw the ups and downs of it, and not every relationship is going to end in a fairy tale ending. So I like that relationship for my number 1. So what is your number 2 relationship, Kellie?
Well, I was going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles and their fan base, but I feel like we've already embodied that so much. So I'm going to go with something else, football related. It was a short-lived relationship, but for me, it kind of sparked a fun era in football, and that's going to be the relationship between Dante Culpepper and Randy Moss. And I know Dante Culpepper's career was kind of cut a little short with the injuries, that sort of thing. But those 2 guys had the kind of fun and chemistry on the field that even though I've never been a Vikings fan, never cared about the Vikings, I looked forward to watching them when they weren't on at the same time as the Eagles because of what those two guys were doing. The celebrations that, Randy Moss started that entire movement of, what ended up getting excessive celebration banned. I mean, there was a whole mooning fiasco, and it kind of opened the door for all of the antics of Terrell Owens, the antics of Chido Chocinco, and, even down in your neck of the woods with Drew Brees and Joe Horn. I mean, just those kind of, it almost became a war, whose celebration is going to be the next one over the top. And I think it was the chemistry between Dante Culpepper and Randy Moss that sparked that. And again, I have to say I'm so happy the NFL brought back celebration because I think it's a way to draw in fans. You might be a fan of your team and never miss their game, but for a while there wasn't much incentive to watch other teams. But when teams are having fun on the field, you want to watch football even when it's not your team playing. And I think Randy Moss and Dante Culpepper had a lot to do with that, and I'm glad that it's coming back again.
That's a great pick. That's a great pick because a lot of people forget about Dante Culpepper because you mentioned it was a short career. Once he went to Miami, it was pretty much over because of the injuries. Man, he could launch the ball. And if Randy Moss could do one thing, he could go down there and catch the ball when it's launched. And Dante Culpepper had a cannon on him. I remember Dante Culpepper doing the rolling celebration where you had the hands rolling over one another. And you mentioned all the things that Randy Moss would do that was crazy. So I definitely love that pick. How you feel about that pick, Rashan?
I like it too. I forgot about their relationship. They definitely had fun out there. And yeah, that rolling celebration that Dante Culpepper used to do. I started doing that when I used to play basketball. If I was scoring somebody, I would do the little rolling, celebration too. You know what I mean? So that was a great pick, Al.
Yeah. So what do you have for your second relationship, Rashan?
Well, my second relationship is probably, the most talked about relationship of all time, and I think that's Jordan and Pippen. I think, even if they didn't like each other, it was so much love brought out of that relationship. They basically played together 8.5 years. 8.5 years. Because Jordan missed the 1 year when he decided to go play baseball, or the NBA forced him out a year, depending on what you believe. And the half year that he came back, it was basically, he missed two seasons with Pippen. But in those 8.5 years, they won 6 championships. Of course, Jordan is regarded as the greatest player of all time. I believe he is, but I do not believe he would have won not a single championship without Scottie Pippen. That's how great I think Scottie Pippen was. I think that in his prime years, Scottie Pippen could have been the MVP of any league, had he not been playing with Michael Jordan or had Michael Jordan not existed at the time. I believe Scottie Pippen is probably more comparable. No, not probably. He is more comparable to LeBron James than Michael Jordan is, because Scottie Pippen can do it all. But LeBron James was never a great on-man defender that Scottie Pippen was. Scottie Pippen, he'll shut anybody down. So I thought that their time together was cut short too. Twice actually. Like I said, when Jordan, decided to go play baseball, and then at the end of the 97-98 year, when they won that third championship, that second three-peat, they could have re-signed those guys. You know what I mean? Those guys brought you 6 championships in 8 years. They could have signed those guys, made it work for Phil Jackson. It was a big mess. Scottie Pippen went on to play great years, I think, with Portland. I think they would have won a championship, had they not blown a 15-point lead against the Lakers on a road that began a Lakers dynasty. I think that would have been Scottie Pippen's championship without Michael Jordan. But, I think any basketball fan a true basketball fan knows that Scottie Pippen was as great as people say he is. He just so happened to play next to the greatest of all time. So my number 2 is Jordan and Pippen.
Great relationship right there. The best duo, you gotta say, ever. You talk about 2 guys who, both guys can shut down whoever they're sticking. So it was impossible for the wings of the other team to really get off and dominate. And then offensively, you mentioned, of course, Michael Jordan's the greatest scorer of all time. You have Scottie Pippen, who was one of the first guys who would get a rebound, dribble down, and pull up a three. One of the first guys that was doing that. That's an underrated part of his game. What do you think about that pick, Kelly?
I mean, I'm probably going to lose your audience here with this comparison, but Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, to me, it's like Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey in the movie Beaches, which is like the only movie that ever made me cry. It's like, you know, Bette Midler is the Michael Jordan, the absolute famous one that everyone talks about, and Scottie Pippen is the Barbara Hershey character, who's, you know, the strong, silent one in the background who has just as many talents, but just doesn't have the flash and the fame to go with it. And, you know, if you listen to the song Wind Beneath My Wings, that's what Scottie Pippen was to Michael Jordan. He was the wind beneath his wings. And I agree with Rashan. I don't think Jordan would have been as good if it wasn't for Scottie Pippen. Not as talented, but I don't think he would have gotten as far. So, I mean, it's that kind of relationship like that. It's another one of those classic movie relationships. You could do a whole lot of interpersonal stuff between the two of them. So, yes, The Wind Beneath My Wings with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Love it.
You made it sound so poetic. Kelly has a great way with words. I never would have thought to even put that together with Beaches and the Wind Beneath My Wings for Michael and Scottie. But definitely loved that pick right there. Now, for my number 2 relationship, it's a little weird because it's between a man and an object. But when this man and this object got together, magic happened. I'm talking about Vince Carter and the basketball rim. In his prime, when Vince Carter would get a fast break or get any type of freedom to where he can fly or get up, he would make the rim one with him, right? He would be the wind beneath his wings would be the rim. And he was somebody who, when you think about the power of Dominique and the gliding motion of Jordan, Vince Carter brought both of those together and just made magic on the court. It was certain things that he did that he just really couldn't believe. I remember one time when he drove baseline on Chris Mullin, Chris Mullin was like 117 years old at this time. We shouldn't have been sticking Vince Carter, but he was. So Vince Carter was able to drive past him pretty easily. And he goes up on one side of the rim and he sees Rick Smith's and ducks under the rim. Now, for 99% of the world, this is a reverse layup. Because you go on one side, you duck under the rim, use the rim as protection, and then you lay it up. But he was so high in the air that he was able to duck under the rim and reverse dunk it. And you know it's crazy when the other team is just looking like, okay, this is different. And every time he dunked it, you felt that way. The 2000 dunk contest, he does the reverse 360 windmill. And everybody stops. First dunk, everybody's saying it's over. There's no way you can compete with this guy. And poor Jerry Stackhouse, I kind of talked about it a little bit on my last episode. Poor Jerry Stackhouse had to follow this guy. And Jerry Stackhouse did a nice 360, but you can hear a pin drop because everybody's like, that's nothing compared to what Vince just did. And, like, man, it's so many great dunks he had. The one over Alonzo Mourning when he was playing with the Nets. The alley-oop he caught. D. Brown threw probably one of the worst alley-oop throws ever. But Vince Carter was so high in the air and had so much hops and airtime that he was able to cock back and catch it and dunk it through with authority on a pass that was probably 5 feet away from where it was supposed to be. So Vince Carter's relationship with the rim is one of my favorite in history. It's a weird pick, but I know people that are basketball heads are going to feel me on that one. How you feel about that pick, Kelly?
Actually, I like that. When you first said it was between a man and an object, for some reason my brain thought you were going to go with Odell Beckham Jr. in the kicker's net, so I'm glad you didn't go there. But, yeah, I mean, when Vince Carter came out, that was still during, I call it my hoe phase in basketball, because I kind of like jumped teams around before I found the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Vince Carter was one of those players that made the game fun to watch. And absolutely, the rim and the dunk is why he was one of those players that, you know, I watched during my basketball hoe phase.
I love that on this episode about love, you're the first time that the term "hoe phrase" has been uttered on the Real Deal with Damian Adams. I always get to count on Kelly to bring out a different phase that hasn't been uttered on the show before. That's why I love you, Kelly. How you feel about that pick, Rashan?
Man, I think that's a brilliant pick, man. I mean, Duncan, the rim, Vince Carter is all, basically, they all go together. You know what I mean? You can't think of any of those three without thinking of the other. You know what I mean? And the sickest dunk Vince Carter did was when he dunked over that guy in the Olympics. The fact that he stole the ball, he saw the guy standing under the rim, and he was fearless when he went up. He just knew that he can jump higher than everybody else. And he jumped over that guy. Kevin Garnett's reaction to that was that's how I felt. You know what I mean? That's how I felt. I just couldn't believe what I just saw. And it was plenty more, like the one you mentioned over Alonzo Mourning. That was a sick dunk. You know what I mean? He whipped the ball behind his back, and then he kind of cocked back, too. It was crazy. I love that pick, man. Now you got me watching Vince Carter dunk videos.
Definitely. And the crazy thing about that dunk over the guy in the Olympics, the guy's 7'2". Like, this when you jump over a grown man that's 7'2", that's, first of all, it's humiliating to get. It's humiliating to get dunked on, period. But to get dunked over is a whole nother level. Like, you didn't dunk on me, you dunked over me. Like, your balls went over my forehead. Like, that's just too much disrespect at one time. And the crazy thing is, the dude that got dunked over was drafted by the Knicks and never came. And my theory is, after Vince Carter dunked over him, he was like, I'm not ready for this NBA life. I'm going to stay over here in France. And I'm just going to make these checks playing for France because I'm not trying to go over here and get dunked on the regular. So I think that Vince Carter made this man change his life and say, I'm not coming to the NBA, even though I got drafted by the Knicks. Like, that's how much that dunk was, how crazy that dunk was. All right, so let's now go to your third relationship. Let's start with Kelly. What is your third relationship on your list?
All right, well, this is the love episode of The Real Deal, so I had to bring it to the sappy place. So my third, the best for last, sports relationship is Kellie Kells and Rashan the Don. Because we are two people. It started out, I was writing for this website. Rashan was a co-host with Courtney Harden, also part of our Momentum Shift radio family, and, a good friend of The Real Deal with you as well. And they had a show together, and I started, being a regular kind of guest on that show and call in and talk Eagles. And Rashan and I, we would just rip into each other. Then when Courtney left, Rashan and I both got onto another show. It was a foursome with two other guys. And the chemistry between Rashan and I, the higher-ups at that website, they saw that we kind of had something going, and they're like, you know what, you two need your own show. And Rashan and I are like, well, okay. We didn't really know each other. We didn't know much about each other, but when we got together and started talking sports, it was kind of like magic happened there on the air. So we started our show there, and it was, highly censored, and we weren't given the creative control. So, you know what? We said, screw you guys. We're going freelance. And we ended up joining up with Momentum Shift, and now we do our show our way every week. And we bring it. And people think that Rashan and I have been doing this together for years and years and years. They thought that on our very first show. They thought Rashan and I had been co-hosting together for years and years and years. But no, we were just two people with a mutual love for sports, love for the Philadelphia Eagles. We like to rip on each other. We get into a little bit of everything. And, my relationship with sports has grown because of the insights that he's given me, and I like to think that his relationship with certain sports has grown because of the insights I've given him. So that's why me and Rashan is my favorite sports relationship of all time.
Very good pick. Definitely can't argue with it. That's the reason that I like to have you guys on the show for the bonus episodes, because of your guys' chemistry and how you guys always bring it. The reason I listen every Friday. So I definitely love that pick. Rashan, I gotta get your reaction to the pick. Hopefully you're not over there crying too hard. How was your reaction to the pick?
I am definitely over here crying. Kells did it again. He did it again. But yeah, listen, man. Above anything else, I appreciate everything Kels has done for me. Like she said, our relationship just outshine, or like our chemistry just outshine everybody else on the other show. I'm glad we made the move. From one network to another. Now we're able to do our thing, be ourselves, and that's the one thing about Kels. She allowed me to be myself. She allowed me to spew some of the crazy things I spew, like digits and stuff like that. But I won't get into all that. But she allowed me to be myself, and that's the one thing I appreciate about her move. I love her passion she brings. She bring passion like I bring passion. She just got a sexier voice than I do. She cares, and I think that to make a bond special, you gotta care. About what you're talking about, or care about what you're doing, care about the person that you with. And all those things I feel about Kels. I care about her. I'm happy that everything has went great for her in her life over the last year. That's why I said that, her and Ryan cannot live apart again, because the one year that they finally move in together, we win the Super Bowl. Damn it, Ryan, if you listen out there, then I let her go. But, aside from everything else, Kels is just the best, and hopefully one day, we'll have, a show that, go national. People listen to us and hear us and hear the chemistry and the fun we have, you know what I mean? We consider ourselves sports entertainment, you know what I mean? We'll talk about anything, and we're not afraid to touch anything. So I appreciate that Kels picked us, as her number one. I truly appreciate that. That's all love.
Definitely. Now, what is your next sports relationship?
See, now Kels gonna make me feel bad. You know what I mean? She always does this. But listen, like I said, she's always number one in my book. But pertaining to this topic, my number one. Sports love affair is Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia fans. I've never seen anything like the love affair between Allen Iverson and Philadelphia fans. Iverson can come to the court drunk. He can come late, but you knew that when he got on that court, he was going to give you everything that he had. The fact that he was 5, I know they listed him at like 6 foot. Listen, I stood next to Allen Iverson. I'm almost his height. I'll say 5'10", 5'11", max. You know what I mean? And then the fact that he was so small, the fact that he was so brittle, he always was getting injured, but his toughness is the thing that Philadelphia fans fell in love with. Nobody thought that this kid from the hood, because that's who people honestly thought that we drafted in '96, a kid from the hood. Now, he was a kid from the hood, but he wasn't a kid from the hood. You see what I'm saying? The situation with him, in Virginia, where he went to jail, is kind of crazy. I'm sure everybody know about it, but, I think he was falsely accused. A lot of people think he was falsely accused, but that's neither here nor there. He came in with a chip on his shoulder. A lot of the fans embraced it, because, to be honest with you, a lot of basketball fans is young African Americans. We saw a guy that looked like us. You see what I'm saying? Once he started getting his hair braided, once he started getting the tattoos, people just fell in love with him. And it wasn't just the black fans, because aside from his outside persona, he had to produce on the court, and he did. Everybody loved him. From a young Caucasian kid to a middle-aged, African-American kid, loved him the same way. And when he cried, at his press conference when he came back, Philadelphia cried. I was crying watching the damn press. I can't watch a press conference with Allen Iverson. If he's getting celebrated, I'm going to cry with him. His Hall of Fame, I was crying the whole time. And no other sports figure in my lifetime has ever made me feel that way about him. You know what I mean? Brian Dawkins is close, but it's not like the relationship between Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia sports fan, because Allen Iverson, for me, he identified with me. You know what I mean? He spoke like me. He acted like how I act. He dressed like how I dress. And I think the fact that he was bold in doing the way he doing things, the way he did it, he endeared to everybody. So I've never seen a relationship like that, Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia Sportsman.
I love that pick. And the crazy thing about that pick is you can expand it. You talked about it a little bit. Allen Iverson and basketball fans, period. Because when I was younger, I was kind of went through, I guess, my whole phase as well when it comes to basketball fans. Because New Orleans didn't get a team until 2002, 03. So when I was younger, of course, I had a Michael Jordan phase where, he was the guy who got me into basketball. And then, of course, you could tell how big a Vince Carter fan I am when I talk about Vince Carter and his relationship with the rim. So I was a Toronto fan. And then, of course, with Allen Iverson being the guy who represented us, like you said, Rashan, he was a guy who, for one of the first guys you saw that was like, this guy's really somebody who would come down to my house and come play spades with us, come play dominoes and just be chilling. And he's the first guy that you felt that connection with in the NBA. So I was, like I said, I was rooting for Philly when they went to the finals against the Lakers because of Allen Iverson. And he just epitomized hip-hop at that time and made that, and that relationship between hip-hop and basketball has always been there. And I think Allen Iverson is the one who really brought it to a whole nother level that no one else could have done. So I think Allen Iverson and his relationship with basketball fans, period, is one of the greatest, especially with the Philly fans. You could tell how much Philly appreciate him. Somebody who plays like that just, epitomizes Philadelphia. So I love that pick. How you feel about that pick, Kelly?
I mean, I was never much of an Allen Iverson fan personally. I kind of missed the 76ers when I went through my whole phase. I think, at the beginning of his career, I was in, my Charlotte Hornets phase of my whole phase. And, my time in Philly was always, or in South Jersey and in Philly, because my grandparents were living there at the time, it was always, late summer where there's not a whole lot of basketball stuff going on. So it was kind of like I missed out on the Philly fans being excited about Allen Iverson. But when I hear Rashan and, a lot of the other 76ers fans that I've become close to just with all of my ties to Philadelphia, I can hear it in their voices the way that they absolutely respect him and love him beyond almost any other player. I mean, Joel Embiid seems like he might be coming close, the process and everything. But, I know how special he is to my co-host and everyone else in Philadelphia, so I do think it is a great pick, even though personally I never felt that connection with him.
Yeah, definitely. It's an awesome pick. Now, for my next pick, definitely got to be a homer pick. I'm going to go with the Saints and the Saints fans. When I live in Arizona right now, and whenever I wear Saints gear, I always run into somebody who's a Saints fan. And you're like, how can you even know if they're a Saints fan? Why would you just be talking to random people? The reason I know I run into Saints fans is because we have a mating call. When one Saints fan sees another Saints fan, they yell, "Who that?" And we reply, "We that." And the fact that that's a global thing, right? No matter where I am, I lived in California for 7 years. Wore my Saints gear, somebody would always yell, "Who that?" And I remember the first time I was with my girlfriend wearing my Saints gear in San Diego, and it was 5 people, "Who that?" from across the street. And my girl got scared. She was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Don't worry about it. It's just what Saints fans do when they see each other. They're always going to have a love for one another. They're going to make sure that they acknowledge each other when they see each other." And I remember I went to, that was last year, I went to the Saints game against the then San Diego Chargers. And there was probably 50% Saints fans there. And the Saints made this crazy comeback to win that game. We were down by 2 touchdowns with 6 minutes left. And the Chargers do what the Chargers historically do. They started messing up and we won the game. And to hear that crowd yelling, "Who that said they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that?" And when you have that kind of crowd that, been drinking a little bit, I can't talk. I think me and Kelly on the same level right now. But when you have that type of relationship between the fans and the team, it just, that love affair is real. Like I said, I mentioned earlier how I cried when the Saints won the Super Bowl. So that's how I know how that feeling that you guys have right now about Philly winning, I definitely can relate to that because, like I said, I literally cried and had to hide my tears. One of my female friends came and gave me a hug, and I had to hold my head up because I didn't want her to see me crying. And she was like, "It's all right, I'm crying too." And it was like, okay, cool, I can show my emotions right now. But with Saints fans and their team, their relationship is just so great. And when you're a Saint and a good Saint, that relationship never leaves. Like with Deuce McAllister, he didn't have this great Hall of Fame career. He's not going to be known among like all NFL fans everywhere. But in New Orleans, Deuce is the man, because he was in an era where the Saints finally started having success. The first playoff team to win a game in the playoffs, Deuce was on. And it just... Oh, he wasn't on that team, but he came the next year. And he started having success, and it ran the ball super hard. You remember Chris Berman, the Deuce is loose. And now that he's one of the radio personalities for the Saints, he always gets love. Anywhere he goes, the Deuce is loose. Who that? And just Saints fans just all over it. Some people might find it annoying. I know some people find it annoying when I yell who that on the mic. But I'm going to do it forever, because I'm a Saints fan. That's what we do. And you got to have that love, man. But I love this episode, man. How do you guys feel about that pick before I move on? So I'm going to start with you, Kellie.
Well, my ex-husband was a Clevelander, and he, there's that time that Cleveland didn't have the game, didn't have football after Art Modell, took the team to Baltimore, and then before the Browns came back. And he adopted the Saints as his team in that time frame. So, yeah, I can relate with the whole, going out with your guy in his Saints gear and hearing people yell, "Who dat?" So, yeah, I've experienced that. But, I mean, it's the truth. You guys are a very passionate fan base. I don't know if you're quite as passionate as a Philadelphia people, but I mean, you're close. You're close. And it is. It's like a brotherhood. And, I experienced the same thing as an Eagles fan when I was living out in Cleveland. Every time I would be out in my Eagles gear, people would start, yelling out, "Fly Eagles Fly," or the EATLES. And it's like that everywhere you go. And it is an amazing feeling, no matter what team you're a fan of, but it's a team with a passionate fan base, like the Saints and like the Eagles. The Raiders are another one where they have that passionate fan base, and I mean that's what makes football such a great sport. Is everyone gets so much more passionate about their team than they do in other sports. With, say, basketball or baseball, people seem to get passionate about players, whereas with football, it's always about the shield, the team that people get passionate about. So I love that bit.
That's a very good point. When it comes to basketball, I am very passionate about Pelicans, but we haven't been there long enough for people to say have that same type of feeling they have towards the Saints. So a lot of people, if somebody attacks Anthony Davis, I get defensive because Anthony Davis is my guy. But I might not get as defensive about defending the Pelicans as I do the Saints. But over time, I think it'll happen because just haven't been the Pelicans that long. But it's a very good point about how football teams is about the team and not the player. How do you feel about that pick, Rashan?
I think that was a great pick, homie, and I look at it from an outside perspective. About how when y'all went through what y'all went through down there out of Hurricane Katrina, man, and the Superdome was people's home. You know what I mean? It was a football stadium that turned into a home for many New Orleans residents. You know what I mean? And I saw the passion when they built the stadium back up and y'all had your home game. And I think the very first play of that cheer, it was a turnover. And I've never seen a crowd get so loud or go so crazy as I did the New Orleans Saints fans. I think that team, built a relationship with the fans that very few teams, in any sport, can relate to. You know what I mean? It was a matter of life and death for people down there in New Orleans, and the place that their beloved Saints played at became their home. There was players out there helping, some of those people. You know what I mean? It was actors. It was people who I consider heroes out there helping, regardless of what they did. You know what I mean? But I saw what you guys went through down there. And from a national level, I just couldn't believe it. And then when the Saints won the championship, it was almost like
Definitely. And the crazy thing about that football game that you're talking about when Deuce had that really big game against the Eagles in the playoffs, I was 06, I want to say, when we made it to the NFC Championship game and lost to the Bears. The play I remember, because I will always hate Sheldon Brown, because he almost killed Reggie Bush in that game. My man Reggie got up and had to fall back down because he couldn't breathe because Sheldon Brown hit him so hard. And I was so mad that Drew Brees was setting Reggie Bush up that way because Reggie had no chance to kind of react and get out the way because the screen was so bad. But I'll definitely never forget that play because Sheldon Brown lit my man up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had some great battles in the playoffs, man. Hopefully, this next coming year, we got, you know, you guys are defending Super Bowl champions. We got a team that's going to be, I think the Saints are going to be a hot pick next year for the Super Bowl. So we definitely might meet. I don't know if we meet in the regular season, but definitely we might make it in the playoffs. So can't wait for that. But I definitely want to thank you guys for coming on the show for the Love edition of The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Had to bring Sexy on to the Love edition.
Thank you so much for having us, and I felt the love. This was a lot of fun on this episode.
Definitely,
yeah, man.
Definitely.
Thank you again for making me cry. Come on, brother. I haven't cried since, you know, the last time I watched Rocky. You know what I mean? And, you know, actually, that was like a couple days ago.
All right, Kelly, tell the people what they can find and listen to the show one more time. I think we lost him. But you can listen to the Red Zone live on Fridays on Momentum Shift Radio on that is every Friday night from 7 to 9 Eastern Time for you guys out there that you can listen to it. And go check them out. Just check out the Red Zone Live on Twitter and on Facebook Live. They have a page as well, so check them out. And until next time, follow me on every platform at The Real Deal WDA on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, everything. And until next time, go real or go home.